With the global health situation hitting hard worldwide, business leaders are scrambling to deal with a wide variety of problems, from slumping sales and stalling supply chains to keeping employees healthy and making sure they can continue working. Long story short, the global health situation affected a lot of things, one being businesses. It completely changed the game of business, and there are now new aspects that business leaders need to take into consideration. In today's video, we'll be discussing what the future of business looks like, as well as what effects the global health situation had on it. But before we get into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the new videos we post. When everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. And as executives struggle to make sense of the post-global health situation business environment, many find themselves leading from this gray area of indecision. 2 years ago, relatively few executives considered competencies in crisis management, enterprise agility, cost management, workforce resiliency, innovation, or cash flow management as critically important to their business. Today, however, top executives tell a different tale. New research from the IBM Institute for Business Value shows that executives are now prioritizing all of these capabilities. In the next 2 years, our findings show that we should expect another huge shift in prioritization. In rather recent research, leading executives suggested a new epiphanies for the post-global health situation business landscape. One epiphany is that digital transformation was never just about the technology. Anecdotal tales of game-time pivots, moving swarms of workers to remote platforms, rethinking and remaking supply chains, shifting manufacturing to produce in-demand personal protective equipment aren't just near-term business contortions. Adaptability is now a mandatory business competency, and an accelerated pace of change has become normal. The global health situation has accelerated digital transformation at 59% of organizations we surveyed, and 66% say they've been able to complete initiatives that previously encountered resistance. This culture shift is in part defensive. Reducing cost is the top benefit attributed to transformation initiatives. But something bigger and more long-lasting than crisis management is underway. Before the global health situation, many organizations seemingly distrusted their own technological capabilities and doubted the skills of their own workforces. Yet, in the blur of this year's global health situation-induced reactions, those anxieties proved largely unfounded. Reliance on tech platforms became more acute, and those platforms, along with the corporate teams who use them, delivered results. Another one of the epiphanies stated that health is the key to sustainability. Before the global health situation, sustainability strategies were largely centered on environmental issues, the risks to planetary health from pollution, climate change, and the like. Consumers were increasingly choosing products and brands that demonstrated authenticity in these areas, inspiring passion and allegiance. Regulators were echoing those concerns and priorities as well. Yet, faced with a human health crisis, environmental sustainability became joined with issues of personal safety. Consumers have been wearing disposable masks and gloves and opting for more individual packaging than ever. To protect themselves and their loved ones, they've been receiving delivered goods to avoid going out in public. These actions seemingly pit protecting human health against protecting the planet. But our research indicates that consumers' passion for environmental issues remains. In fact, health and safety have been conjoined in a new, expanded, and more complex definition of sustainability. New burdens are already appearing for corporations as they must make good on existing sustainability goals, reduced carbon footprints, more efficient waste management, or otherwise, while simultaneously meeting new health and safety requirements. People and the planet are inextricably linked. Executives' concern for sustainability topics has skyrocketed in 2 years. This may be among the more challenging and critical implications of post-global health situation business. Meeting this bar will require not only new practices and new materials, but also new kinds of data and efficiency. For example, what's the environmental cost of meat spoiling or being discarded versus using more plastic to make it safer? How do we enable supply chains and last-mile delivery to get what businesses and consumers require without being needlessly wasteful? More sophisticated questions are coming, and leaders will be expected to provide more nuanced and educated answers. Where to from here? The global health situation was a wake-up call that the unexpected and the unlikely are more tangible and plausible than anyone previously anticipated. For many, it has been a bitter reality, painful, costly, still unresolved. For a few lucky others, it has offered an unforeseen windfall, one that organizations have struggled to capitalize on. Either way, executives must accept that global health situation-induced changes in strategy, management, operations, and budgetary priorities are here to stay. Aside from the epiphanies, when professors of Harvard Business School were asked how the global health situation is likely to change how companies do business, here's what they said. Businesses will help customers be more helpful. The rapid spread of the illness behind the global health situation reminds us how our well-being is interconnected, and the flurry of heartwarming responses people have exhibited in the face of this crisis reveals our tremendous willingness and ability to help one another. These truths will persist when life goes back to normal. Forward-thinking leaders can run better organizations by creating conditions that allow customers to be more helpful. When service provision is a true partnership and customers are pitching in, employees are more productive, service outcomes are improved, and experiences are enhanced for everyone involved. There are 3 barriers that can prevent us from productively engaging. 1. Not being able to help. 2. Not knowing how to help. And 3. Not believing our help is important. Organizations that have succeeded in helping their customers be more helpful have found ways to overcome all 3 barriers. For example, cinemas have identified a concrete, helpful customer behavior: silencing phones before the movie begins. A simple reminder that demonstrates why it matters to everyone in the theater is all it has taken to practically eliminate interruptions during movies. Another success is how airlines have trained us all to take part in cleaning the plane before landing. During the final approach, a flight attendant asks over the PA that we pass our trash and unused items to a crew member in the aisle. On some flights, the message additionally describes a tight upcoming turnaround and how passengers can help the cleaning crew achieve an on-time departure for the next flight. In both cases, we gladly do our part. One caution: when the rationale for customers to help seems mostly about enhancing profitability, the request to lend a hand can feel disingenuous, and in some cases can lead to behaviors that run counter to the organization's objectives. But when it's clear that our engagement is broadly helpful to ourselves and to others, most people are delighted to engage. By identifying concrete ways in which customers can be helpful, providing clear instructions about what they can do, and designing transparency into why their partnership will make a positive difference for everyone involved, business leaders can improve interactions among their customers and employees and help us all achieve better things together. Another prediction that Professor stated was that remote work will become strategic. We have to recalibrate our minds in terms of why we're doing remote work now. In this moment of panic, when companies and workers are trying to figure out how to be productive and how to be happy working from home, the most practical advice is to find someone who is experienced in remote work tech tools. Find a colleague who has used Slack and Zoom and set up a tutorial and get a sense of how to use these tools and what their functionality is like. Hopefully, the global health situation will end for good, but those tools will stay helpful even if you choose to go back to the office when the situation places a smaller threat. This is an opportunity to learn Slack and Zoom and have a mentor teach you how to use these tools. The second thing is, working remotely is very effective if you can also restructure the organizational process for how communication happens, how socialization happens, and how coordination happens. In a short time, it's not possible to do everything, so there are a few things companies can focus on. First, in a remote world, it's very important to not only communicate synchronously on Skype or Zoom, but also where you're not face-to-face on a screen. The easiest way is to use a Google Doc or Slack. This is how virtual companies work. If 2 people are working as a team, for example, the first person can work in a Google Doc and explain what the other's done, and the other person can wake up in a different time zone or city, open it up, and see the work the first person's done. There's less chance of losing communication, and people are on the same page. The final thing: remote companies have well-established processes where people are socializing and no one is feeling isolated and falling through the cracks. That's really important right now, especially with all the anxiety around us and schools getting closed and the fear and psychosis of the moment. According to research, productivity went up when people went to remote work settings. But let's not compare those normal circumstances to this moment now, where general anxiety might affect productivity. The isolation and mental sadness need to be actively worked on by encouraging employees to develop a personal regime. Exercise at home, meditate, and make sure you reach out and talk to people, even if that socialization takes place virtually, just to make sure employees are happy, mentally relaxed, and productive to the extent that we can. And managers should also think, how do we survive this time and even get something positive out of this? One of those positives could be the use of all these cool tools that we should be using anyway. As time passes, workers may find that they like the flexibility of not driving every day and might be interested in making their own self-selection to continuously work from home. Companies should have the right processes and incentives in place to allow for that flexibility. With that said, that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching.